This time I'm going to call to order the Thursday, October 16th College Township Council Meeting to order. For those who can stand, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, that takes us to public open discussion. It's an opportunity for anybody online or in the room to address council on anything that's not on tonight's agenda. Anybody in the room? No? Anybody online? Anything that's not already on tonight's agenda? Just raise your digital hand or unmute and holler out. Okay. I'll close public open discussion. We'll move to new agenda items. Anybody on council requesting a new agenda item for tonight or the future? All right, same thing in the audience. Request for a new agenda item for either tonight or in the future. I'm looking online, I'm looking in the room. Seeing, hearing none. We will move to special presentations. Tonight we have two. The first of which, SP1, is a CATA Executive Director introduction and what looks like also kind of like a report. Right? Any staff intro, or are we going right to Dave?
Right to Dave.
Right to Dave.
You're right to the source.
As it is. Mr. Chair, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the opportunity to come chat with you this evening. As Eric said, really two purposes. We want to give you a little bit of an update of where things are at CATA right now and introduce you to our new CEO coming in. Next slide, please. So this is going to be my last presentation for you here. I'm going to be leaving CATA on the 10th of November, and Todd will be taking over. Save the best for last, so you will hear from him after me. But I want to talk a little bit about what our focus has been in the last couple of years and sort of where we've got things positioned, and he's going to talk about where he's going to take them from here. So we really had three major goals in the last couple of years. As you know, I came here and initially as a 6-month interim executive director, and now we're 2.5 years plus in. But we decided to focus on a couple different areas. The first was really to stabilize and improve our service, to balance our budget and try to get our fiscal house in a stable situation, and then really try to strengthen the organization and the workforce. I'll talk a little bit about what we've achieved in those different areas. Next slide, please. So in terms of stabilizing and improving the service, the biggest thing we did is we really redesigned our fixed route system pretty significantly. We re-engineered how the routes were structured and how they operated to the point we're now operating with roughly 11 to 12 minute headways, meaning a bus every 11 or 12 minutes on some of our major corridor routes. And that's been very positive in terms of the quality of service. Our on-time performance is up about 10% from a couple of years ago. Complaints are down 30%, and our ridership is up from 5 to 25% depending on the route. And this year, happy to say that we actually hit the 5 million ride threshold, which is the first time since COVID. So we're kind of got CATA back into a stable footing in terms of our service. We also kicked off a bus stop improvement project, or I should say it's a program, because it's going to be many years. We put up new signs, which you probably saw, and we just finished an assessment of every bus stop in our system. We're evaluating those bus stops along with a person from CATA, actually an engineering team, not from CATA, from PennDOT, who helped us evaluate and document every single stop on our system. We want to identify stops that have accessibility or ADA issues that need to be addressed first. And then we're going to be looking at stops just to be sure that we've got the right kind of package of amenities for the number of people who get on or off of those stops to really, again, help our customers. We implemented new CATA Go software really right after I got here, and we've really expanded the CATA Go system. The College Township has been a big beneficiary of that, and that expansion really has been more than 50% of our service area in the center region. And this year, we'll be expanding the service between this year and next year. We'll probably get to a point of every part of the center region will be covered either by our fixed route system or by CATA Go, which would be the first time we've been able to do that. And our on-demand services are running at better than 95% on-time performance, so that system is running pretty well too. Our emphasis was, let's try to put, especially our high-capacity services, where the passengers are riding, try to get as many people using those services, make them as convenient, a shorter ride as possible to really get ridership up, and then cover the rest of the area with our microtransit. Next slide, please. In terms of finances, we initially worked out a new formula for local match, and really appreciate Adam and the other managers for doing that. I think that's something that was plaguing us for a couple of years, and that seems to be in a stable place now. And we've also been able to improve revenues from our various contracts with apartment complexes in the region. That's up about 15%, that revenue, over the last 2.5 years. And we also expanded the apartment pass. It used to be you could just use it to go from your apartment to downtown or to campus. Now you can use your pass to go anywhere in the CATA system, and that's also increased our ridership. We negotiated a small increase to our rates with Penn State. They're now paying what we think is a fair amount for the services that we jointly operate for the university and for the community. And we've been able to increase our revenue from our advertising rates as well. We went through the regrettable and difficult process of working on some of the services that were in the Bellefonte, Benner, Spring Township area that were not financially sustainable. And I wish we'd had a better outcome there, but for now, CATA is no longer operating there. So the only positive of that is there was a small financial windfall for CATA because we were over-subsidizing those services. We've implemented an electronic fare collection system. If you've ridden our buses lately, you'll notice the fare boxes are gone. Now you scan either your smartphone or a pass, and within the next month or so, you'll be able to use a credit card on the buses. So you can just tap a credit card the same way you do buying gas at the convenience store. And we have a balanced budget. Last year, our budget was balanced for FY25, and for FY26, our current fiscal year, we actually have a slight deficit by the budget, but our budget is a kind of what I call a best case, worst case budget. It's best case, we hire all the drivers that hopefully we can hire, and what is that going to cost? We're pretty certain that's not going to happen, so we're likely to finish the year with a little bit of an actual surplus. Next slide, please. And we worked on strengthening the organization. We had a lot of turnover at CATA from COVID on, so we really needed to stabilize the organization of the workforce. We negotiated a new labor contract last year with increases that the union was happy with, new CEO right behind us, and a lot of other new members of the executive team. We really reorganized the entire authority organizational structure. Installed a new human resources information system and a new payroll system. We have enhanced our employee benefit and have saved money on our healthcare program. Actually, we were able to give better benefits at a lower cost. So knock on wood, we're happy we were able to achieve that. And we're really enhancing our internal training programs, trying to focus on professional development for our employees. And we implemented something this past year called a Catalyst Award. This was a recognition program for employees who had done significant improvements that really made a big positive change at CATA. We're really trying to promote a culture of reaching into the organization and taking ideas from anywhere in the organization that are going to improve CATA. We wanted to facilitate that by recognizing people who come forward with really great ideas. That's going to be an annual thing going forward. We've enhanced our cybersecurity, I would say, posture and infrastructure to the point that not only do we have everything on the cloud and we have cybersecurity systems, we also have a real-time backup running in Lancaster in their emergency operations center that is a backup of our current system. So if something were to happen here, we have that live and we can call on it for any kind of disaster recovery. And we've really worked hard to expand our interaction with you folks and the member municipalities, have a better idea of what's going on so we can look forward for our operations. And I want to thank all of you for your support. We know this was kind of a rocky couple of years for CATA, at least initially, and we appreciate your patience and your support. Hopefully we've gotten the authority back to where you'd like it to be. Now I'd like to introduce, oh wait, one more slide. I think I've already said all this, but the only thing I haven't touched on, two things. We just switched to renewable natural gas. We had CNG in all of our buses. Now that gas is sourced from renewable sources, so a little bit greener and cheaper for us. And our passenger satisfaction, according to a recent survey by PennDOT, is above 90%. So very happy with that. And now I will introduce Todd, and he'll tell you about himself and the future.
Thanks, Dave. And like you said, my name is Todd Horsley, and I'm the incoming CEO at CATA. So we'll be taking over for David in the next few weeks once we make the full transition. You can go to the next slide. And so anyway, thank you for having me tonight, and thanks for the opportunity to introduce myself to you. I've met a few of you, so it's good to see you. Hopefully get to know the rest of you over the coming years, and not hopefully it'll be several years that I'll be able to stand before you as the CATA CEO. But I won't give you a full recitation of my resume, but this slide should just give you kind of a flavor of my experience. Other than just a couple of years right out of college where I worked as an economic development planner, I've spent the last 25 years, which always throws me when I see that number on the screen, but the last 25 years in the public transportation sector or space. The first two jobs I had were at Go Triangle in the Raleigh-Durham area in North Carolina, and then at the Georgia Regional Transportation Authority in Atlanta. Spent about 11 years between those two organizations. Really, those were my first jobs in transit, and really that's where I learned the business side of transit. During my time at Go Triangle, I was their first contracts and grants administrator. I did all the purchasing and procurement. I was their facilities administrator at one time. I was their risk manager for a while. I was actually the HR director for a couple of months. So really learned the business side of transit at Go Triangle, and then worked for about 4 years at Greta in Atlanta, and doing a lot of the same things I was doing in North Carolina. Just so you'll know, it used to be Triangle Transit Authority. Go Triangle's the system in North Carolina and Raleigh-Durham that connects the Raleigh-Durham and Chapel Hill municipal system. So if you want to go from Raleigh to Durham, you take Go Triangle. If you want to go from Chapel Hill to Raleigh, you take the Triangle. But if you just want to go within those cities, you just take the municipal systems. And then Greta is the commuter bus system that brings commuters from the outlying counties of Atlanta into the downtown and then back out to their homes at night. But so after Georgia Regional Transportation Authority, I went out to Colorado, to the Aspen area, to the Roaring Fork Valley, and I was their chief operating officer. I had gotten a lot of experience in project management and federal compliance while I was in North Carolina and Atlanta. And so they were looking for someone to help them build the first rural bus rapid transit system in the nation. And so was able to use my experience at my other two jobs to basically become the chief operating officer at RAFTA. I really functioned more as a deputy CEO than I did as a true chief operating officer. Like here at CATA, we have Derek Sherman, who's really the chief operating officer, but there I was more like a deputy CEO. But really worked a lot on the construction and the startup of that bus rapid transit system, the Velociraptor. And so that's one of the kind of crowning achievements of my career so far. And but the thing about RAFTA, it's very similar to CATA. It's very similar in size, very similar in passengers, very similar in number of buses and employees. It's also a seasonal system, so their high season is obviously ski season in the winter, and then the summer tourist season. So very familiar with systems that have these seasonal schedule changes. So RAFTA is actually very similar to CATA. I planned to stay at RAFTA and be the CEO by now, but sometimes life gets in the way, and there was a family health emergency, a crisis that I needed to move back east and kind of be nearer to family. All my family's in Alabama, so I ended up at Virginia Department of Rail and Public Transportation, very similar to PennDOT here in Pennsylvania. I was the director of Northern Virginia Transit Programs in the Washington, D.C. area. So I managed all of the state funding that the Commonwealth of Virginia gives it to the Northern Virginia system, to the Northern Virginia area, which is about 75% of the transit money in Virginia goes to the Northern Virginia suburbs and to the Washington Metro system. So I planned to really only land there and be there for about a year until I figured out this health thing. Stayed 10 years. It was a fascinating job. Loved living there. Could have retired happily from Virginia DRPT, but I always really wanted to get back into local transit service. And as I was nearing my 10-year anniversary, I realized, wow, I've been here 10 years, and I don't know how many more years I've got beyond this. So I need to, if I'm going to make a move back into local transit, then I need to do it. I'll do it now. And but luckily, I liked my job well enough. I was able to be very selective in the jobs that I applied for, and really only applied for just a couple, and I'm very happy to have landed at CATA. So next slide, please. So the next couple of slides are just things that are going to be happening in the near future, and then hopefully over a little bit the longer term. David's already talked about some of these things, but these will be the kind of the things that we'll focus on for basically the rest of this fiscal year, because these are things that are already in motion, and but these will take up the bulk of my time over the next 6 to 8 months. So new CATA strategic plan. The last time CATA updated their strategic plan was 2016, so it's time to do that again. I think the board was wise to wait for the leadership transition, so looking forward to getting the strategic planning process kicked off in December. Actually, David will be with us to help with the strategic planning process through the remainder of his contract. So operator recruitment and retention, obviously that's not a project, but that's just an ongoing thing that we have to think about at CATA. It's really something every transit system in the nation has to think about and worry about. There are operator shortages across the nation. At CATA, we always tend to have enough operators, but we don't tend to have any more than enough. And so if we're ever thinking about adding service, or we'll need to try to find a way to recruit some additional operators. And like I said, we have enough, but if we have a few sick outs during any particular day, it can really cause us to have to scramble and rearrange some assets to make sure we're making our service every day. So we'd just like to think about how we can recruit some additional operators. Like David said, we're not really going to be able to recruit all the ones we have budgeted for, but recruitment and retention of our operators is going to be a focus over the next 6 to 8 months, and probably beyond that. It's probably not just a FY26 thing. David mentioned our bus stop accessibility study. We're kicking off phase 2 probably in the next few weeks. Phase 1 was an assessment of all of our stops. Phase 2 will be a prioritization process where we determine the stops that are in most need of improvement, and you'll probably see me back here talking to you about that, because we don't really own our bus stops. Really the local jurisdictions own those, so we'll be identifying some of the stops that need improvements and working with you to maybe try to find some funding for those. CATA facility improvements, I just mentioned these. There's 2 budgeted facility improvements. Neither one are major improvements. There's a parking garage renovation project, and then there's an office build out at our current CATA headquarters. It's not an expansion of the building. We literally have a very large open room right now that was just never built out for offices. So we'll be building that out and adding a few more offices on our 3rd floor. I mention these because they're just going to be happening basically in the space that we work in every day, so there'll be a little bit of disruption, but and they'll just take a little bit of time. So, and then potential new service to State College Regional Airport and the regional Amtrak stations. This is something the board wanted us to look at in this fiscal year, and so we're starting that process. I think the airport service is probably our priority of those 2, and that would be something we would do through our on-demand service, our CATA service. Haven't made really any plans right now, but that is something we're planning to kind of prioritize between now and the end of the fiscal year, and hopefully have something going. But we need to be very thoughtful about how we do that. And then similarly, regional Amtrak service, or service to regional Amtrak stations. We feel like there's a market there, but we're trying to, this is probably a little bit more amorphous. We probably want to do a little bit more research before we try to deploy any service to the Amtrak stations. And then there's the kind of the dilemma, which one are you actually servicing? I think there's stations in Tyrone and Lewistown are the two closest, but those are really just platforms. They're not really stations. Altoona has a station, so maybe Altoona makes more sense than Lewistown or Tyrone. So anyway, I think the Amtrak service probably is going to need a little bit more research and fleshing out, and hopefully we can get the airport service started a little bit quicker than that. And then CATA Next is just a kind of an exciting initiative that the board asked us to kick off, and we're working on getting that going. What this is it's really trying to rekindle a spirit of innovation at CATA. I still think CATA is known for innovation, but what I've heard is that at one time, CATA was known for innovation, and we'd like for CATA to become an innovative transit system again. I still think it's an innovative system, but I just think during the COVID era, that just put a damper on a lot of things, and we just want to rekindle that spirit of innovation. But what this will be is actually a program that rank and file a small group of rank and file employees, not the management team, they'll come together in a facilitated group, and they will discuss ideas and innovative concepts, maybe take a look at things that are happening around the country, and then bring some ideas to the board at CATA for possible implementation. So next slide, please. So kind of the focus of the future. So these are just when I was thinking about what I'd like to do at CATA or what I'd like CATA to be, these are kind of the 6 things that I came up with, and once I put them down on paper, I realized there's probably nothing new here to anybody. These are not original concepts, but these are probably 6 things that every transit system should aspire to be. Probably every public sector organization should aspire to be these things. But in addition to these 6, you can also go back to David's first slide. Not really, but he said we'll continue to also work on making sure our service is stabilized and improved, balancing and enhancing our revenues, and then strengthening our organization and workforce. So we'll continue those, but these are 6 that I had come up with as, like I said, not necessarily new initiatives, but things I will definitely want to focus on with CATA. And I'll just briefly run through these and what I was thinking, but on the safety first culture, every transit CEO in America will probably say safety is our top priority, and that should absolutely be true. It should be a core value that kind of permeates every level of the organization. But I feel like we say it so much, sometimes we're just saying it. And so I don't want us to be just saying it. I don't want to get complacent. I want it to actually be more than lip service. So excellent customer experience. And before I move on, CATA excels at all of these things already, so it's not like we're really needing to do a lot to be these things, but I want to make sure we are these things, and we're doing all we can to be these things. But on excellent customer service, we just want to be responsive to customers if they have complaints or if they have suggestions. We want to have enjoyable rides. We want to have clean buses. We want to get you where you need to go when you need to be there, and that's what I want CATA to be known as, for excellent customer service. CATA as an employer of choice in the region, operators, dispatchers, customer service agents, they have stressful jobs every day. And what I would like to see is that CATA as an organization or as an employer, we don't add to that stress. Their jobs are stressful enough, but as an organization, as an employer, we don't add to that stress. We want our employees to go home at night feeling good about their jobs and about the place that they work. And we want the public to see CATA as a great place to work. And we'd like to have the happiest employees in the valley. So I know these are very aspirational. And so being a trusted community partner, we have 5 members, the 4 townships and the Borough of State College. And so we want to be a good community partner with our members, as well as Penn State and Center County. There's an old adage that I've used before that says, don't do projects, you should do projects with the community and not to the community. And so I would like for any project that CATA does, we do it with the community and not to the community. But I would also like for us to do transit with the community and not to the community. So that's what I envision as being a trusted community partner. And then an organization that works, I'm just one of these people who things just don't work like they used to, And I really want CATA to not be a pain point in someone's day, in our riders' day. I want people to recognize CATA as a great asset, but I kind of also want CATA to be an afterthought. You know, during the day, you didn't think about it. It just gets you where you need to go when you need to be there. And so I just want it to be a conflict, pain-free experience to ride CATA. You know, our equipment works, our schedules work, we pay our bills on time, we're responsive to our customers. And then finally, the innovative spirit. I kind of touched on this with the CATA Go, or the CATA Next initiative. You know, just want to really reinvigorate that spirit of innovation at CATA. You know, like for us to be known for willing to try new things and to really empower our employees to, you know, contribute ideas and to help solve problems at CATA. So those are the 6 things that, you know, that I'm planning to work on, along with, again, the things that Dave said. So maybe there's 9 there. But, and then during the strategic planning process with the board, we'll kind of flesh these out and put a little bit more meat on the bone. So maybe the next time I come back to see you, I'll have a little more information on these. So that's all I had for tonight. I think we're happy to answer questions if you have any for us. We will be back probably in the budget season, which will be kicking off pretty soon. So you'll see me again in not too long. So.
Staff, Mike or Adam, anything? Before we go to council?
The only thing I wanted to mention to council that has kind of flown under the radar, but I want to give some kudos to Dave and the fact that over the last number of years, we have consistently met with CATA staff and the center region managers. And that's something that was new, and it's something that had not happened before. And there's some real value there. And I hope that Dave and CATA have found some value in that as well. But I just wanted to extend my thanks and appreciation to Dave and to CATA for making that happen, because I think it was very productive. And again, as I said, I hope that there was some positives that CATA was able to glean out of those interactions.
Tremendous. Thank you very much.
Mike, anything?
No, I just appreciate what CATA means to this community. Obviously, my former hat, I worked very closely with CATA. It's been nice to have the opportunity at some of the managers' meetings to come and discuss topics with you. So, I've really enjoyed working with you, Dave. I'm looking forward to working with you, Todd. It's just a great partnership. Glad to see that the legs are back under CATA and that we're the organization that we were in the past. And looking forward to many more good years of partnership.
All right, we'll stay on that side of the table. Rich?
Certainly. Dave, thank you so much for stepping into the breach. You got us to the next side, and welcome. We look forward to working with you. You seem to have an ambitious agenda. Hopefully we can help in that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dustin?
I just resound welcome. I appreciate you being here. I think you'll find the community's very welcoming, so glad to have you.
I echo the same thing, and I look forward to the extensive experience you have to bring the different insight. So I appreciate that, and thank you, Dave, so much.
Well, I can't resist. Nothing wrong with aspirational goals. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Have you been to any of the other municipalities yet with this presentation? Did you get any feedback that would be noteworthy enough to share with us from any of them?
You're the third of this. Yeah, you're the third of 5. So
General thumbs up.
All right.
Yeah.
I think this is called the honeymoon phase.
Uh-huh.
No, good stuff.
Yeah.
I do have to call out our finance rep. You mentioned the satisfaction with the local share. At least it appears we've reached a point where everybody's happy. It seems fair. Well, a lot of that came from our finance rep. As Dave, as you probably know, and it preceded you, kind of took the lead, and it seems like everybody's in a good place with that. And that changes something that used to be a real thorn in CATA's side to something that I think just happens now. So kudos to Rich and you guys for doing that. Two quick comments. You mentioned the Amtrak station service. Is this in relationship to the MPO grant to do the study? If not, I just want to make you aware that the MPO received a supplemental planning grant to assess and evaluate the most effective and efficient ways to connect to those locations. So
We're definitely aware of it, and we were planning to participate in the steering committee, so.
Okay.
All right. Sure if it's necessarily, it was planned as being related to that, but it certainly is.
I just want to make sure that we don't cross streams here, because the plan, the grant, to just identify, doesn't necessarily say what's the best bus route there. It's looking at the best way in general. And I fielded a question from local media last week on the MPO's planned service, bus service to Amtrak, and I just had to back them up a little bit and said, you know, we may end up there, but the study is to evaluate the most efficient and effective way to connect, to take advantage of the second daily trip west of Harrisburg. And then lastly, yeah, congratulations on the RNG project. You know, you talked about innovation, and you heard this at the RNG unveiling. Yeah, the switch to CNG was pretty innovative, you know, came with some risk. And we were reminded back then that CNG is still a fossil fuel and it is not renewable. So you guys have checked off those two boxes. I mean, the way I understand, the RNG is renewable, and it's really not a fossil fuel, is it? In that format, so congratulations. So that's 30 years of innovation, right? Come full circle. Anybody else? Thanks again.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
Look forward to working with you in the future. All right, we have a second, do we? No?
No,
Okay.
she's not available.
I invited these guys to stay for OB1. There is a CATA-related issue that they may want to speak to. They're not required to hang out, but if they're still here, that's why. All right, so that'll get us to OB1 a little quicker, since we're going to move on. We're not ready for SB2 yet, or we may not be doing SB2 tonight.
We were anticipating it, so if she shows up.
Okay, we'll circle back. That takes us to plans then, of which we have none, and then takes us then right into reports. We have a written manager's report in the packet. Does the manager have anything to add?
I have nothing specific. I'll defer to Mike if he has anything that he would like to comment on, but otherwise, the report is complete.
Questions for the manager? Rich?
Just a follow-up at our, not the last meeting, but I think the meeting before that, there was discussion about updating our casino stuff on the website. Any update on the updates?
Yeah, I mean, the study itself is out there, it's available, and, you know, we've done some updating that was brought forward during those public comments. At this point, I feel like it's fairly up to date. There probably is some places that we can continue to tweak, but we'll continue to monitor that, time permitting, to make those updates.
Great, thank you.
Eric, there was one, I did just want to touch on
Solar power?
Solar power, yeah. You know, as the manager's report notes, the Center County Solar Group did meet on 10/8 and received presentations from both Prospect 14 and Green Sky. And that was in particular related to challenges on that agreement. A lot of the challenges now have to do with the regulatory environment under the current administration. There's still a narrow pathway for Prospect 14 to make their project pencil out financially. So we're anxiously awaiting some response from them to questions pertaining to the financial model and seeing some actual numbers that support some of what we heard during Prospect 14's presentation. I expect that hopefully here within the next few weeks. So stay tuned. Cautiously optimistic. maybe at this point that we're at a place that this will work out. Our consultant still seems to feel that it will work financially, but we're hearing a mixed message from Prospect 14, which is, again, very disappointing considering the amount of time and effort that is going into this and quite frankly, resources. So again, I just wanted to highlight that. Stay tuned as to where we're at. I'm hoping by the time we meet again, be able to provide a much more robust update.
Any questions for Mike on that? Okay, then we'll move to COG Regional County and Liaison Reports. For my calendar, the first one that would have happened after our last meeting would have been Facilities on October 7th. Did that actually happen?
It did. I think I'd sent out some renderings of the Whitehall Road concession and pavilion update and some construction drawings. So we provided some initial thoughts on those. We took if you will recall, back to 2018, if you were involved in COG, one of the first actions of the Facilities Committee was that anything new needs to have the replacement schedule built into the CIP as part when it comes online. So we took our first look at that, what that might look like for Whitehall, and then we'll also be looking at it for Millbrook as the two most recent projects that went into that. Then we moved on to COG Maintenance and Asset Management Agreement with regard to the fire stations. Took a first glance at that on the operating, trying to get some consistency in the agreements and understandings of how we're going to maintain our fire stations. A couple key points were the demise, this is mine, this is yours, liability, that flows into liability, and then also replacement of capital assets as opposed to just maintaining them. Finally, I think I also sent out the update of the 2025 capital projects, up to date. Very pleased with how that document's going. Pending any questions?
Questions for Rich? No. All right, well, let's go to Dustin then. Next up would have been Lucy.
Well, Rich actually attended that.
Oh, but wait. So that was a joint meeting with the Center Region Planning Commission, which, oh, by the way, College Townships is the chair of the Center Region Planning Commission, Mr. Forziat. So we walked through various things to include some items going on in Harris Township. There was a lot of discussion about Hess Field and how do we get that to the next step on everything. It was actually beneficial that I was there because I put on my facilities hat and gave answers. I put on my finance hat, gave answers, and I put on my parks governance hat on and I gave answers. So it worked really well. But out of that, though, there was some questions that, and I think I've forwarded these on to you as well, but Dustin is going to need feedback for his next meeting on these. We can either do those tonight, or if the chair wants to put it up for a future agenda, I think we have time before their next meeting.
When is that? It'll be after our first meeting in November?
Correct.
What's your preference?
If we have time tonight.
I think they're pretty direct questions, and I think we've already indicated previously what our position is, but don't want to assume. So the first of those is, does the municipality support establishing a policy that all public parkland may consider having access to public sewer infrastructure if economically viable?
This came out of the Hess Field discussion. Right?
Correct. But it's a more global, because the decision we make for Hess needs to fit everywhere in parkland. The only thing I would offer with that expanded. The original discussion was just regional parks.
Right.
And they wanted to expand it to parkland overall, say, somebody that isn't but has the opportunity, should they be allowed that? And I think that defines some of it.
So let's look at it this way. First of all, that gives cover for the Hessfield discussion, or at least a shell of the structure for moving forward with that discussion. Is anyone opposed to the concept of that?
It's a policy, right? That's what they're saying. That you would establish a policy
Consideration.
for consideration.
Right, and that was important, that it not be mandatory, that it be voluntarily if it's economically viable. So you still
Right.
make the business decision on it, you can't be forced into it.
But it forces us to consider it.
Huh?
Forces the
It's
consideration.
available to be considered, it doesn't force it to be considered.
Okay.
All right, Adam?
Yeah, the only factor in this, and we're going to be talking about this a little bit later this evening, I certainly agree with that notion as in terms of policy, but I think it's really important that we add a caveat there, that we understand that we're not talking about the utilization of the implementation agreement to assign those EDUs. I think that's going to be really critical. If in fact we're talking about expanding the opportunity when economically viable to all parks, I would not want to see the center region turn back around and say, well, if there's a park in Ferguson Township, you can do that. It happens to be outside of the growth boundary, but you'll have to use your implementation agreement portion of EDUs that you have to implement as part of that. This should be, in my opinion, it should be a separate pool of EDUs or just completely separate from that entire process. Otherwise, I think that you're actually forcing municipalities to make distinctions between potential economic and community development initiatives and strictly park initiatives. So I think that, I don't know if the conversation got that deep.
It did. It did. So where it derailed from what you're indicating. So one of the things they talked about, they were concerned about an exception for regional park. Now, well, we can't be accepting ourselves out, but it's a regional park. It's not the same as others and everything. But there was a lot of concern about, but they were okay with creating a new DRI process which allowed that to happen, which is a de facto exception in my opinion, but okay, whatever gets you there. So the big distinction was where the DRI light is intended for areas that are contiguous to the current, and this was not contiguous.
Okay, so there could be anywhere
Yeah,
outside of the existing.
yeah. It could be like a, almost spot for it if it makes sense and everything. And that was one of the directions that they peeled off on. So, and I understand your point, but it's also, it's the same as College Township, and I offered College Township as an example of going through the DRI light process and everything, and it's a decision, and you're using up an asset, and the asset is EDUs available, readily available. So I will share that and I'm precursing number 3 a little bit, is that it doesn't have to just be in that, it could be in the update of an Act 537 plan. So it doesn't, that would not use up the DRI's process, DRI light process. Full DRI, you can add whatever, but yeah. So that was something that was talked about, and I'll expand on that last one when we get to it.
Before we get off that one, though, the concern is that under that circumstance, the host municipality would have to use their bucket. The EDUs would have to come out of their bucket, the bucket that's allotted them for DRI light. Okay. So what was the I think with that caveat, there seems to be support, as long as that can be resolved to the satisfaction of.
But I think the manager is indicating he'd like to see another bucket for those things.
Well, that's what I mean by being resolved. That we have concern.
I mean, I think obviously this is a council initiative or policy. I'm just saying that I was mostly fishing for
Yeah.
how they were anticipating that the EDUs were going to be allocated. And I would have a little bit of concern relative to the fact that we might need to utilize our own individual implementation agreement allotment.
That's fair. So,
Yeah.
but moving forward on it,
I was gonna say, Dustin needs these answers, so,
Yeah.
well,
so as long as he understands our direction.
yeah, I heard our direction to be, conceptually, we like the idea, but we need to address where the EDUs come from, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so it's known moving forward, yep. And again, I will share,
It's probably leading a little bit into number 2. as
it
well.
is,
Yeah.
and so again, the concern was, the DRI light is built for contiguous. There was discussion that this would be applicable to non-contiguous.
But it's still the EDU issue,
Yeah, yeah,
whether it's contiguous or not.
Well,
still-
I
The
mean,
sewer
and not
service
to
area.
prolong this, but I mean, it is an EDU issue, but it's a growth boundary issue
Yes.
relative to how far the non-contiguous parcel is located from
Yes.
the boundary. I mean, it's a bigger issue.
yeah.
You
So
know,
maybe a restriction of X number of, like, some distance off of.
Yeah,
the-
that has always been, I mean, that's the reason we have an implementation agreement.
Yes.
Because we allowed for the contiguous expansion of the growth boundary. But it is a departure from past precedent and policy based on COGS 537 plan to allow or contemplate an expansion beyond a contiguous boundary.
Yes.
Okay, so to add to that, concern over the non-contiguous, and for the obvious reason that if you punch it out there, now you're going to have additional pressure to expand the growth boundary contiguous to the non-contiguous parcel you just added.
Yes.
now everything-
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
we're scared to say no.
Right.
And so the concern was if you, and I'll just use Hess Field as an example, that, it fits all the stuff, but there's concern that if we bring sewer to that, well, then the 5 houses adjoining here are gonna demand to go on that. I don't share that because I was reducing it by ownership. Ownership of, the COG owns it, so it's a municipal government that owns it, owns that piece. So there's the hard break.
So you lock it to that.
I said the devil's in the definitions, and you do with that. But again, the fear is not being able to say no. There is already a caveat in the DRI process. If DEP says you will, you will. And so, but outside of that, you can't be forced to connect them just because it's close at this point. That's my understanding of the law and everything. But so I just offer that there is apparently a strong sensitivity to unintended consequences of being forced to add other people beyond what you're asking to be added. And I would offer that can happen anywhere. It can happen with our DRI light process and everything. There can be pressure upon, well, you're this close, now I should be able to connect. Yeah, if we do the DRI process, and that was the other thing I said, they can via the DRI light process. Well, we shouldn't force them to go through that. Why? We're forcing everybody else to go through that if that's in the best interest of the region and the municipality and all that good kind of stuff. So hopefully that offered some extras. The second, does the municipality support CRPA and the Lucy Committee developing an amendment to the RGB SSA agreement to define criteria and a process for parkland to request a DRI? I think if you support the one, you kind of got to support the two and everything.
Yeah, agreed?
Yes.
And then finally, and/or does the municipality believe this discussion should be part of the comprehensive plan update and Act 537 plan process? So interesting note, DEP recommends that the 537 plan should be updated every 5 to 10 years. It's been, I forget, I'm sorry.
Longer.
Yes, it's been much longer than that since the region's 537, depending on how you look at little tweaks here and there and everything. But the discussion was, instead of going a DRI light or this or an exception or whatever, just build it into an update of the 537 plan and everything. And because the timeline, planning shared that they're going to be looking to do this in 2027, I think. So with facilities hat, I was able to share and finance that we can't go get grants for an illegal project. And if you can't bring sewer, the project being bring sewer onto Hess Field. And so until we get that done, you can't go seek funding. There's been a lot of saber rattling about getting restrooms at Hess Field. So, that I was able to offer our interim, the really nice houses, bath houses, whatever, as an interim moving towards a final fixed facility stuff. We took a good step towards that this year in adopting the master plan for Hess Field, or readopting, or however you want to look at it, but confirming that where we're going to put the restrooms, that's where they're going to go, before we go putting infrastructure in that is going to have to get relocated and everything. So it pushes it down the road a little bit. I think but the timing.
Unless Harris uses their DRI light to implement it, which they very well could.
I would simply offer that if there is a immediate need, that the local municipality in which the regional park resides utilize their allocation. The issue, the problem, the potential problem is that the 50 EDUs that everyone is allocated as part of the implementation agreement perhaps might not be enough.
Yeah.
And I don't know that. I don't know what that looks like.
They threw out one EDU for a park, but I don't know if I fully agree with that. But the other issue with Hess is, if I'm correct, it's not contiguous.
Oh, clearly.
Yeah.
So
So
I guess the
that won't
implementation
work.
agreement.
Yeah.
will-
Right. So you need another means. If you want to get it done sooner rather than later, you have to do another means. If you're willing to wait and make it part of the 537, or move the 537 update forward. Although we just approved a budget that didn't include it, so
Yeah.
it's challenging.
Budget amendment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thoughts, suggestions? I mean, I'd toss out one, see where the contiguous discussion goes and have the 537 update as Plan B consideration.
I do think that ultimately it makes sense to incorporate into a 537 plan update those sites.
Right. Long term.
But that, longer term, that doesn't necessarily address the shorter term
Yeah.
need.
Yeah. And Harris is, I kept the long overdue promise, of restrooms at Hess Field. I personally am comfortable using the upgraded facility, portable facilities until we get to that step.
Right.
But I think Harris has been pushing the hardest for it and everything. If they support that, then we absolutely would support it. So I feel the ball's a little bit in their court.
Do you feel you got enough
Yeah.
feedback?
Yep. I think so. Thanks.
All right. Climate action and sustainability. Were you able to attend?
Yep, I attended that. Mostly a discussion meeting, no actions. We did get a review of the CAP, which is the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan. That dashboard that basically tracks the 35 key actions that municipalities can implement and are implementing, and some are noted as such. The biggest thing to note there, Adam, is that's going to be shared with the managers for input and status on those actions. And then just to note too that as an update to that, the technical advisory group is in the process of reviewing 82 climate actions within the CAP. We got a single-use plastics update, which largely was everything that Mike's been telling us all along, so not much of an update for me. But it was a good educational format, especially for those who haven't, heard that. Kind of talked a little bit about the background and historical, which I think mostly we understand. Recycling grant opportunity was the third topic we talked about, which is a matching grant opportunity with the Center County Recycling and Refuse Authority. They just wanted some feedback on possible projects, and so the committee did support projects on education as well as some outreach, and really everyone was very interested in talking more about cardboard recycling as part of that. So that was what we discussed.
Questions for Dustin? No?
And I just sent you the summary, so you should have that, which if you want
And
to
T-Lou
read
does,
later.
staff does send out a T-Lou, or the T-Lou summary. All right, public safety, Rich, you attended that in place of Susan, did you?
Right.
Public
Yes,
safety?
yes, I did.
You were taking over the super sub.
Yeah, this month I got it. Two main topics, discussion about active violence training for the COG, and there was consensus in today's climate that it is a good thing. The suggestion was in February or March, right after reorg, to get it, any new faces, try to get in there. The other suggestion, or the other discussion was, just COG or just municipalities. And the discussion was both, because every facility is different. How we react to it here with 5 council members and staff and everything is different than 32 elected officials at the COG facility and everything. So it's best to know your surroundings, and it's probably of value at both. The next item was a proposal from Code regarding a rental housing permit application fee. I think we're all familiar with rental housing permits and how that goes on a 3-year cycle, and then towards 3 years of payments towards a one inspection every 3 years for those. To this point, Code has subsidized the initial application work that is required to get a property set up as a rental housing permit, and to do the initial inspection to include usually multiple follow-ups in particular. Where this is really coming to light is actually from a lot of our peers implementing short-term rental programs. And so you're gonna have a bunch of new people that never did short-term rental stuff trying to get this done and to be compliant with the new ordinances in the other municipalities. So what was proposed was a $75 rental housing permit fee, which is, Code offered that it's roughly half of their actual costs to provide that, but it's a start. It's gone from 0 to 75. So that was pushed forward as supported and recommended. Interestingly, there was a couple of folks that said, "I'm surprised it's not higher." And I'm like, I was not one of those. and I don't have any of these, but I just, to go from 0 to whatever. And then I did express a concern, okay, so the municipalities are charging one thing, and then Code's charging another, and then we just want to be careful about that. We want it to be as inclusive as we can. One of the things I brought up is, okay, when is a rental housing permit expired? Not new again, so that you'd have to go into that, and that's 90 days. If you allow your rental housing permit to lapse for 90 days, you're treated as a new rental housing permit customer. So, and those were the
Okay.
two main items.
Questions for Rich on public safety?
I would offer that executive did bounce it back to public safety, asking for a recommendation on the active shooter refresh. And the thought was, if you're going to push it off to the new term, I'd do it in January. Not even sure if there's any need to wait till February. Staff said it's a pretty easy stand-up.
Well, there was discussions. I mean, all training's not created equal either. I mean, you could spend a day on it if you really got into it with
But I mean,
some of
the prep they would
Yeah,
need.
yeah. But
They've done it already in all the buildings, so.
yeah.
Okay. Lastly, then, did finance meet earlier today?
They did, but before you get there, the College Township IDA met on October 15th, of which I attended. They received a presentation from CEDACOG, and the big items is they awarded 3 small business grants, one to Lesser Lumber, one to Happy Valley Live, and one to Randy Comfort Auto Center. For $5,000 each towards improvements on those properties. The other thing that they really started getting into was their strategic plan and execution of it, and potentially a movement away from the committee structure they have now to more working groups as needed for individual topics. There was some dissension on how that all would come together and work and everything, but it makes sense. My personal belief, they're even stronger in committees than COG. So I think they could utilize their members' time a little bit better and towards very targeted goals from their strategic plan. I think that, their normal business other than that.
Any IDA questions for Rich?
Just clarification on those grants. That's different than the grants that the IDA awarded in the Gateway District?
They are in the game. It's the round two of the same program.
All right, now I guess we can go to finance.
Oh, sure. We received the 2024 audited financial statement presentation. I forwarded that presentation on to all of you. We'll see that at general forum for approval. No surprises, nothing of substance identified. Continuing to work on various elements in particular, the classification of fund balances and everything. We took our first look at summary budget municipal comments. Nothing too earth-shattering. I think the underlying married ours in the significant use of fund balance this year, and we'll have to see where that goes. They did, for exec, you'll see the motion, there was a line added about reconciliation of the $19-ish thousand of increase in parks operating fund balance in 2026. Made some good headway today. That actually is projected excess revenue. I guess you can't call it profit, but excess revenue from the concessions. So now it potentially is going to come back as a policy decision. Should that be hoarded into increasing fund balance, or should that be used to offset municipal shares? My personal opinion, it should be used, any excess proceeds should be used to offset municipal shares, first and foremost, unless needed for a specific use under the fund balance. Just letting it grow because that was easiest where to go, I don't think is a good policy. And so, we hope that it's successful in generating those, because then it would help offset municipal shares versus us subsidizing those programs. The next one was took a first look at our after actions for 2026. We're going to have a robust meeting in November to discuss the entire 2026 budget process and where we can do better. I've shared my comments for the detailed budget and the summary budget with all of you, and we'll come back on those. We did actually make it into fund balance policy. We started with code. The question with code is always, okay, if they've got more, how can we use it somewhere? And you can't in the current law, pretty much. And so your tool is to modify the multiplier, the fee multiplier, to eat down that balance and everything. But we're going to take a look at that and identify the trigger points where we need to start doing that. You know, when it gets to this level, we need to take action. We're currently reviewing it semi-annual. The reality is every year, this is going to be the year that we're not going to, the center region's just going to dry up. You know, we're not going to have any projects, and then we exceed the budget by double. Example, for 2025, they budgeted an ending fund balance of 1.3, and they're currently at 2.5. So the center region just keeps chugging, you know, so let's stop underestimating it, and then that would be adjusted by the fee multiplier. So more discussions on those. We also committed, normally we cancel the December meeting out of respect for how much work the committee puts in getting to the budget. We will be having the meeting, and it will be solely focused on fund balance policy. And there was also a commitment to, if we need a special meeting in addition to keep moving that, with the intent of something to the general forum in the first quarter of 26, so that then that can be worked into the 27 budget.
Is that all?
That's it, sir.
So if you ever thought you wanted to be your township's finance committee rep, just play back the 20 minutes of Rich's report from. All right, questions for Rich? All right, I would just offer that returning that revenue, we'll call it excess revenue from concessions, might quiet some of the worry warts over the profitability or the cost of providing these things like
amenities, yeah.
Amenities at park.
I would offer that we took a good step this year in that they broke out concessions and camps into a separate analysis of money's coming in, money's going out. And then we can take a look at that and then compare actual results to projected results and everything. And I think they're a little overly optimistic, honestly, on what they're proposing for 2026 in that regard. But if we're going to lose it, I'd rather lose it at we didn't get as much ending fund balance as we'd hope, as opposed to contributing more municipal shares to make sure that we do. So that
Go over better with the
yeah,
municipal partners.
yeah.
All right, I think that concludes COG reports. Were there any liaison reports that I missed? No? Then we can move on to staff PC and other committee reports. I know that at least, other than Planning Commission, I know that Mike circulated one of the PowerPoints from the airport summit that we attended. And all I would say is take a minute and browse that report, because if you're interested at all in how the airline industry works, and particularly how their workings relate to being able to attract service to your local airport, there's a lot of good information in there. I thought it was 2 hours well spent. Very, very Very educational. Did you have anything else you want to offer on that?
No, I would echo that. It was, I wasn't sure what to expect, and it was great. It was, good, very informative, and there's a lot there. So
They over-delivered,
definitely worth
I
it.
think, on that. Then anything other than PC, 150th, anything else to report on that?
The only thing on the 150th, there is a committee meeting that is scheduled for the 21st.
Yeah,
Tuesday the
Tuesday,
21st. And that will be to kind of formalize semi-final plans for the final event, which will be November 23rd.
Okay. Then we'll go to PC, and then we'll go to Janet for Parks.
Hi, Matt Fenn, PC Liaison. Just starting out a suggestion for maybe these live meetings that are on TV to benefit council and staff and also benefit the planning commission. Maybe we can get CNET to like a red hat or something like that, and they can stand in the aisle, and then at 7 o'clock they can go sit down. Of course, I'm just kidding, but I tease those guys. Couldn't pass it up. Three things we sort of discussed. The first was the signing ordinance. We were presented with 4 options. One was UPD, one was to do nothing. We sort of chose 2 of them, the combination of the township-wide agreement and then a hybrid agreement. A couple of definitions. The definition of a stadium is a large, usually roofless building with tiers of seats for spectators at sports events. We added and or other large performance gatherings. So we sort of added on to the ordinance there. And we, building signs, allowable signage may be increased by 10% for each 5,000 person occupancy not to exceed. Originally 100%. We thought with the stadium expansion, everything like that, we thought maybe to go up to 150%, sort of realizing that the times are changing a lot of money coming in. Anybody have any questions on that? Clarifications?
Well, just to be clear, the recommendation from PC will be
Right.
for that,
Recommendation, yeah.
to just
Okay.
adjust the system, the township-wide sign
Right.
ordinance. Okay.
And the second thing, which I guess we're getting to later, is the PAM Health. We did decide that the DRI has merit. We had one member pretty strongly wanted to include some things, a couple other members a little bit in. I think we talked about this 2 meetings ago, that they're just concerned with the subdivision, sewer, water, rezoning to the PRBD, the land lease agreement, development agreement. So I just wanted to put those on the record. Anybody have any questions about that? And the third thing, we talked about open space as far as the form-based code. Currently it's 30%. We're going down to 5%. And one thing we're putting in there is developable land. Realize that's a big change. We talked quite a bit about should the open space be public or private with the size of the lot, and pretty much came around. We thought maybe some being private, it could end up being people's backyards, which wasn't really ideal. So we sort of decided maybe the best thing was just make it 5% across the board. And it is independent of the lot coverage. Anybody have any questions on that?
Can we go back to the DRI, just clarification, did you not reach consensus, or was
We
it-
reached consensus that the DRI had merit. It's more, just a couple of our members didn't I think there was like about maybe 8 green dots or green circles, and they just thought maybe that process, which like I said, we talked about, I think, back in September, that they just didn't quite understand the process in general, but wasn't consensus on understanding the process either.
Well, it took us a few meetings to get that down ourselves, so. All right, questions for Matt?
Okay, and finally, it's playoff baseball season, and a lot of times they have, to get all the games in, they have more day games, and they asked the great American philosopher Yogi Berra, what he thought about that, and to quote Yogi, he said, it gets late early out there.
All right, Janet, you have to follow that.
Well, it's going to be short. The committee didn't meet in October, but at your last meeting, you heard Sue Smith talk about the potential for a service project at Mountainside Park. Pending the application for that, we would have that on our November agenda to look at as far as the Parks Committee. But so far as I know, we haven't received that application yet.
All right. Any questions for Janet? Comments? No. Well, thank you. I think that concludes staff, PC, and other committee reports. Did I miss any? If not, we can go to our Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging report. Any updates from our report earlier this month?
No, it was pretty comprehensive written report. Appreciated Dawn pinch hitting there for that at the last meeting. Nothing new to add.
Okay. On that agenda, though, we do offer the public an opportunity to comment, address council on any DEI belonging issues. I'm looking online, looking for anybody who may want to address council on that subject, and I'm looking in the room. Not seeing any, then we will close reports, move on to the consent agenda. Tonight's consent agenda, as its usual, three areas, the first of which, CA1, contains 2 sets of minutes. The first is CA1A, the minutes from the September 18, 2025 College Township Council regular meeting, and CA1B are the minutes from the October 2nd, 2025 College Township Council regular meeting. The second section, CA2 correspondence, contains one item. Actually, there's 2. I don't have the most recent one, do I?
Yeah, there's 2.
The one is the late one that came in, okay. Contains 2 pieces of correspondence. CA2A is a letter from Pantera Engineering dated October 8, 2025 regarding a time extension for the Half Moon Township Land Development Plan to February 3rd, 2026. And the second piece of correspondence, CA2B, is a letter from Stephen Spoonmore dated October 12, 2025 regarding bike improvements and safety. The third section is action items. Tonight there is one item under CA3, that's CA3A, the appointment of Mr. Joe Feo to the College Township Water Authority. Would anyone like to see any of these items pulled for discussion before the chair entertains a motion to accept the consent agenda?
CA2B?
CA2B. Anything else? All right. Chair will entertain a motion to accept the council, or accept the consent agenda minus CA2B as presented.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Comments from the public? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda adopted as presented minus CA2B. Dustin, CA2B, did you want to?
Yeah, I saw Mr. Spoonmore in the audience. I didn't assume if you wanted to speak to that, but I did just want to bring up that at least what I wanted to discuss on this was his first point in the letter about the staircase and a bike board, if that was something that was feasible or that, we could consider.
Well, let's first get a clarification. We now have a new structure, right, for overseeing Thompson Woods, right?
We do, yes.
Or we have a formalized old structure.
Right. I mean, I don't know to the extent that the committee has had conversations relative to the bridge. That bridge was installed, repaired, reinstalled by College Township personnel. But I don't know, Mike, if you have any further.
But my question is, where does a request like that start? Does it start at College Township? Does it immediately go to one of the 2 subcommittees, or how does that work?
Yeah, in this instance, Mr. Spoonmore did come to the Thompson Woods Preserve and presented his concern at the time, and that was relayed on to Public Works. Our Public Works. And, then, obviously he has continued concern there. At this point, I think it's landed where it needs to land.
Okay.
It's kind of moved out of Thompson Woods Preserve into into council's.
So it should actually, well, actually, it should probably be considered and recommended by the Parks Committee at this point.
Right.
And then the recommendation come back to council on this. I don't see this as being an issue. I think it's something that will be supported. And I think it's just up to council to potentially allocate funds toward that ultimate construction of this type of an apparatus.
Okay, but to respect the process was what I was after. So what we should really do is await a recommendation from.
Yeah, I mean, if you really wanted to take an action this evening, you could theoretically remand that to the Parks and Recreation Committee for further discussion and a recommendation back.
Okay, and what we're thinking about here is not incorporating it into the capital plan or even the 5-year capital plan. We're talking about a maintenance or a.
Yeah, and we're under development of the 2026 budget. I mean, if in fact there's going to be a November meeting, as Ms. Seltzer indicated, that may be ample time to incorporate that type of a thing.
All right, Janet, do you need an official remand from council, or is this something you are open to entertaining just?
Well, I mean, I would add, just for process, I think we should remand it.
Okay.
I mean, just like we do with PC, and kind of
I see.
outline, I mean, what are we getting consensus on? We could probably provide that even to them. I mean, I just wanted to point out, right, it just seems a bit like Mr. Spoonmore got the runaround, right? He first goes to Thompson Woods. Thompson Woods says, go over here, and it comes back around. Like, so, like, to me, like, we have to, what is the process? Is the process to go to Thompson Woods, or if it ultimately has to come to us to fix it, then why doesn't it just come to us?
Well, and it can.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's council's decision. And you know, Eric had asked a question about process. If you want to stay true to a process, I think it's appropriate that the Parks and Rec Committee be engaged on this.
Absolutely.
But that said, ultimately, it's council's prerogative to take action immediately, with or
Right.
without any kind of recommendation.
All right, then to move this forward, absent any objection to understanding, we could get a recommendation back from Parks and Rec to move forward. Does anybody think that's not a good idea? So that we,
Well,
if not,
yeah.
I mean, if there's consensus, we're not going to approve a recommendation to do that, then there's no point in remanding it, I think is what you're asking.
Well, what I'm trying to recommend here is if we can reach consensus that, yes, this is a good idea, and then remand it to Parks and Rec to say, please come up with a design
Yeah,
for
and
this.
that's what I was asking the
Yeah.
other way around.
Yeah.
So, any objection to remanding it to planning commission, or parks? Do we don't need an action, do we? We can direct,
It's,
by
Consensus.
direct staff.
you can do it that way, sure.
Then that's what we just did. Right? Rich?
Yes, although I guess I'm not clear on where the delineation from where the preserve board
Yeah. I'm not
opines
either
in
still.
and where the township just
Yeah.
takes action is. And I think it's a new process, so we need to flesh that out.
I took it from Adam's comment that it's us.
Well, the only, and again, while that technically hasn't been delineated, what I can tell you historically about that particular bridge is that it was originally, and likely was originally a scout project, and then it has been repaired and maintained by College Township Public Works staff since its inception. And it was recently rebuilt within the last 3 to 5 years. So I know that College Township has assumed a degree of responsibility for that particular asset. And as such, you know, I would assume that responsibility would remain directly with the township.
Yeah, I think I'm putting it on the other, because this is a partnership between two. We don't want the borough just going off and doing their own thing as part of the agreement and everything like that. But in this case, because of the circumstances that are involved, plus let's get it done. But moving forward, I think we need to flesh out, you know, where things are supposed to be.
Yep.
So is that an additional request we could have brought to the board, right, to kind of delineate that?
And not just that, but also the process being made public so that people know how to get the information to whom they need to get it to. Because that can be frustrating when you don't know and you're thinking you're doing it right, even though, you know, you're gracious about it, but I think we should be able to allow more information available to the public so they can follow those steps as well.
All right, so we have a combination of a remand and a staff request.
Yeah, the staff request, I think, is going to be some additional discussion at the Thompson Woods Reserve Committee, Governance Committee, you know, to get a little bit of clarity there, get some consensus about their feelings relative to that particular asset and whose jurisdiction that it falls under. But in the meantime, we've got the remand back to the Parks and Rec Committee for the, to work on a design for this particular project as requested.
Yeah, a recommendation.
A
and
recommendation.
Recommendation and potential design, yeah.
Yes.
Correct.
In conjunction with staff.
Pretty straightforward.
All right, anything else on that particular CA2 item?
I didn't have anything on the second and third unless someone else did.
Stephen, since you're here, you've heard the discussion. Do you have anything to offer on the discussion?
Parks and Rec does not believe the bridge is...
Okay, no, I need to step up here and tell America who you are.
Hi, Steve Spoonamore, former member of the Parks and Rec Commission. Parks and Rec does not believe the bridge is under their jurisdiction. Already went to them. They said you have to go to the new commission. Went to the commission, did the presentation. 3 months later, they said the bridge is not ours, it's the township's. In that period of time, some cyclists put the ramp on, it was there for a while, and it was taken off by apparently College Township Maintenance. So I believe I'm at the right place.
Okay. Yeah,
We're gonna make stuff
I think you are.
It is a 1x6 board, I'll go put it on myself. But that's it. And the second issue is whatever that new surfacing material, the sides of our new bridge are basically covered in ball bearings. You can't ride a bike across that or walk. Somebody's got to clean it or remove them.
So this is embedded in the road surface?
The road surface embedding comes off, and it is currently about that deep on the shoulders. You can't actually get across the bridge safely unless you're on the roadway.
Don?
That material's what we use. Remember, we did the high friction road surface on a couple curves, and actually Township News highlighted our project. And they've been doing that, PennDOT has been doing that now on, I'm going to say all of their bridges. But what needs to be done is they need to come back with the street sweeper and sweep up the pieces of stone that are left over. What it is they put an acrylic material down on the deck, and then they come back and put a layer of stone and try to roll it in and knit it into the acrylic. But what doesn't actually stick eventually goes off to the sides. And it hasn't been all that long ago they did it, so they should have swept it by now, but we can contact PennDOT and say, get that swept up.
All right. If there isn't any further discussion on CA2B, Chair will entertain a motion to accept it as part of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion, questions, concerns? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Remaining piece of the consent agenda is accepted. The entire consent agenda is now approved. That takes us to old business. OB1, ordinance revisions, remand to PC. Lindsay, if we could single out Chapter 180, the traffic impact study, talk about that first while our guests are here, and then move on to the other four. Is that possible?
Sure, yeah. So just a brief introduction. At the last meeting, staff introduced these 4 changes to the code ordinances, to our code of ordinances. Specifically, traffic impact study thresholds, parking reductions for transit participation, energy generation facilities, and data centers. Since then, we've come up with another one, which is mobile food vendors. We figured it's kind of timely to make this change now that we have this ordinance open. But, so to get into the actual requests, we'll start with number 2, parking reduction for transit participation. This is a request to allow a 25% parking reduction for developments partnering with CATA to provide free bus service access for residents or employees. So this would apply to residential units, and it would apply to commercial developments as well. And I know that this has worked in other municipalities, and so we feel that it's makes sense to add it here, knowing that we do have some more intensive mixed-use development coming down the line here eventually. So that's one request. I know it's been successful in Ferguson with the cottages or the yards. I apologize. And so we hope to add that. One thing is that parking is in zoning. So that's, in other places it's in the subdivision and land development ordinance, which makes it waivable. So, but in zoning, if you need any kind of relief from parking, it's a variance. So that's just a little extra tidbit I wanted to add, but the request is to the 25% decrease.
If I may, this kind of builds on a path that we started out on, in particular with respect to Aspen. And at the time, we had actually discussed with Aspen Heights, reducing some of the parking requirements in exchange for bus passes. Unfortunately, we didn't have an actual ordinance in place at the time, and that was, in essence, somewhat, because it was of the zoning district, it was somewhat negotiated with the developer. Unfortunately, while bus passes were initially issued by Aspen, they're no longer being issued by Aspen. And in review of the recorded plan, that particular element was not incorporated as a note on the plan, and thus it's not enforceable. So we don't have any action that we can take against Aspen for stopping issuing those permits for use on CATA. This, I think, will begin to address the reasoning and the rationale behind what we want to try to achieve in future developments.
Anything else, Lindsay?
No, Adam summed it up well.
I wanted to separate this one out so we, if necessary, we could get some feedback.
Yeah, that's all for that.
The reason I asked them to stay is, when I first read this and it came out, there was two things came to mind. And first off, the agreements had been in the past multi-year agreements for bus passes. There was no obligation on the part of the apartment complex to do this permanently. Talking briefly with Dave and Todd, that very few apartment complexes have opted out once they start. It's a competitive advantage, but I wanted to hear from them their thoughts. And the second piece to this is, I like the idea of less parking and less asphalt. However, the experience has been over the years that many of these tenants still bring their cars to State College and the apartment complex. They just don't use them to go back and forth to campus because the bus is more convenient. Again, I wanted to hear from the CATA folks about it, because those were my two concerns about this. I support it conceptually, I just wanted to make those notes.
Okay.
So, others, Rich, thoughts on this before we go to CATA?
Yeah, the enforcement sounds like it's the challenging thing.
Yeah, I understand you can put a note on the plan, but then how do you go back and make them build more parking spaces, 5 years later? Dustin?
Yeah, that was my question on the enforcement, how's it done, right? Like, say, 10 years down the road, all of a sudden they decide to pull out and not offer the passes, what happens,
Tracy?
Mine was on the opposite, was the accountability on the apartment complexes to remain, to let us know or whomever know that they still have a partnership. Like, are they gonna get this discount or this, like, what are the measures that are gonna be in place for accountability, to receive this reduction? You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, the only thing that I can tell you is that we do enforce off-recorded plans. And I know we just reviewed a recorded plan here from many years ago. Just today, I think it was, Mark, you took a look at one, where we were trying to evaluate whether there were any trees in parking islands. And so the one thing that the MPC allows us to do, and the zoning officer has the ability to do, is that recorded plan is the plan of record. And those items that were approved at the time of the approval itself, and specifically of the recording of the plan, are actually enforceable. And so technically, years from now, if there is a note on a plan, and that plan has been properly recorded, that developer, that development is obligated to maintain those items that were part and parcel of the recorded plan. Mark, is that correct?
Yes, well, and that's similar to what we did most recently with the sinkhole at the mall. And the plan required that to be maintained, so from the zoning aspect, we were able to assess the violations through that. And that mall plan is an old one.
To that point, I wonder how often are those reviewed? And should there be and then the second part to that is, if a new developer came in and absorbed a former, does that still remain? Okay.
Yeah, the original approval runs with ownership.
Okay.
Of the property. In terms of actual review, it's a time and place type of a thing. I mean, they're typically not reviewed unless there becomes an issue that we're made aware of, or that we capture, or we identify on our own.
Okay.
But that is, the recorded plans really are a fallback, and in particular for those projects that have been done years ago.
And if we ever get like a minor plan or any other updated plan that's related to another one, we check those plan notes to make sure anything that has been established moves forward with any other updates.
Thank you.
Rich?
Just confirming it runs with the land, not with the
I'm
ownership.
sorry, yes.
Yeah, okay.
It runs with the plan.
Yeah,
The parcel.
it doesn't care who owns it, it runs with land.
Yeah, I
Okay,
misspoke.
cool.
Okay, so you guys heard what we were talking about. Thoughts, concerns, it's all good for CATA, I think, obviously.
Thank you, that's my first comment. So just to address some of the things that have come up, Eric and I were talking at the beginning, and I think in my heart, I agree with you that wouldn't it be lovely if this wasn't necessary, if the apartment owners just understood, this is a good deal, I should just do this. But I don't think that's been our experience. But the positive side is that we've lost very few, or have gotten really few indications of any complexes that want to leave the program. Once they're in, they really do see the value, and they get very good feedback from residents. We have regular communication with the apartment complexes, just to see how it's doing, and for any new construction, we would help during the design phase to figure out how we're going to get the buses in, work with them on how many buses do we think we need to be able to meet their demand. So we really try to be very responsive to the developers so that we have the service designed so that it really serves them well. And once they start using it, again, the passengers tend to love it. In terms of cars, I think, like somebody mentioned passengers still bring their cars or
Yeah.
tend to still bring their cars. I think it varies depending on who we're talking about. Our experience has been international students, and they're often some of the folks who live in some of the kind of apartment complexes out in these areas. They don't have cars and tend to not have cars and are really heavy users of this service and are very appreciative of it. If it's a fancy schmancy building, you're gonna have, you know, rich kids coming and bringing their cars. But you are right, they tend to just leave them in the parking lot and drive in, or ride us in. But we would certainly appreciate this, and we are a little bit concerned about what happened at Aspen, because just that one complex operating 2 little minibuses has presented some significant problems downtown close to campus, because I mentioned how we redesigned our services. We've really increased our tempo, and we're actually experiencing this year an unfortunate slight decrease in ridership on some of our routes, because we kind of created a problem for ourselves. We designed the services to be so frequent and so convenient that a lot of people came in to use them, and our buses are nearly full. So they're having experience of they can't get a seat on the bus, so some of the people are leaving. So we're adding as much service to the street as we can, and then that creates a lot of congestion at our drop-off locations. And just having one apartment complex that has buses that are using the same bus stops we're using is presenting a problem. So we really would like to have, I think one of the original concepts of CATA was to prevent that, to not have, you know, 10 different little mini buses running around for different apartment complexes, one system that serves the entire community. So anything you could do like this to support that, I think would be great for everybody. So, yay, we support it.
Questions for Dave while he has the floor, or Todd? All right, so it sounds like, thanks, Dave, and thanks for sticking around that half hour that I said it would take till we got to.
We're now better informed about the township.
Yeah. All right.
Don't ever trust Eric.
Yes. That was wishful thinking on my part, apparently. All right. Any other questions, having heard that? That seems to have addressed the enforcement issue that was our main concern. It should be minimal, and the note on the plan gives us the teeth we need, should we need to. Okay.
It's still difficult, but we have the tool to pursue it.
Yeah.
Right.
It's more of an incentivizing, I think, you know, just, you know, hearing, you know, from CATA there. Yeah.
Notes in a plan are always fallbacks. Okay, but it's also a safety net, so that we do have the ability to address certain things.
Then the only thing I would add then is, I assume the 25% is a number that just didn't get pulled out of a hat?
No, I believe that came from the adjacent municipality, similar to what they were doing.
They didn't just pull it out of the hat. That's there's some data or something behind the 25%.
Depends which adjacent you're talking
Well, it
about.
depends on how much of an incentive that, I think those are issues that the planning commission should
Exactly.
probably discuss.
So just-
But it is degree of incentive. You know, a 25% reduction in parking, depending upon what your project might be, could be significant.
Yeah.
But there's also a corresponding cost associated with that. It at some point becomes an economic equation that needs to be solved by a developer. But in certain development situations, that 25% reduction could mean the difference of having a viable project or not. And meaning that the CATA option might be their only viable option to being able to pursue it. But again, I think those are probably conversations that are best left to the planning commission.
Context for the remand, a little bit of context. For
Yes,
the remand.
absolutely. I was taking notes.
I think
so,
we'll
yeah.
run that by our traffic engineer. I'm sure he would, if there's data, he knows where it came from.
25, I mean, I do like the idea of at least having parity with the adjacent municipality as far as it goes that way, even though maybe it's not the best number, but, you know, I think parity, you know, similarity is good.
All right, we're going to tackle all these revisions in one motion, so you don't feel obligated to sit through the next four. We appreciate you waiting around that extra half hour.
It'll only be a half hour.
It's always just a half hour. One more half hour.
All right, thank you.
All right, Lindsay, next up.
Okay, so we'll go back to one traffic impact study threshold. Currently, we have a requirement that you have to do a traffic impact report in the ordinance, but there's not a threshold for an actual traffic impact study. So we used, but there actually is in the university plan district section of the zoning ordinance, which requires the threshold, yes, of 100 trips. So we felt that worked well, and we are going to take that, keep it in UPD, but also move it over to subdivision and land development. So now when we have new developments, they have that actual threshold of when a traffic impact study is required. That just seems like something we've been meaning to do for a little while. So.
Yes, years.
Yeah, taking care of it.
Just to be clear, that number 100 comes from our engineer's review of the plan.
Yes, that, well, from the UPD. It comes,
But I mean, the determination that it generates 100 comes from
Yes.
whoever.
oh,
Yeah.
yes. Thank you.
Right, yeah, not from the developer.
Oh, it's 99.
Oh, yeah.
Every time it'd be 99.
99.
Yeah, 4.9% density, those kinds of things. So then we have energy generation facilities. This was, I believe, one that came down from a House bill that we just really want to keep up on. Being able to allow these types of facilities as conditional uses, ensure that we have the authority to review them, we have the proper public process, and we have this House Bill 509 too that's hasn't been approved yet, but we feel like we just want to get ahead of it before anything else can come down that makes us not have the protection and the authority that we need over these types of facilities.
And before we move off that one, just following up on the discussion Mike and I had on this, you know, us getting ahead of this is trying to prevent us from having no say at all in where these go.
Yeah, I mean, and Lindsay, you may need to correct me, but I think that, I mean, this issue and the next one we're going to be talking about are both legislation that are that's being pushed heavily at the state legislature level at this point. And I think that both of those require municipalities to take action on plan submissions within a substantially short time frame, like 30 days.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And unless your zoning ordinance captures those as
It's not going to trump it,
conditional uses, which then gives us 120 days. So I think in both of these instances, what Lindsay described is 100% accurate. We're simply trying to get ahead, recognizing that by making what are now uses by right, conditional uses, we're not really losing anything there. There's no real, there's really, because of the nature of both of those types of uses, there's not a reason that it couldn't already be considered conditional uses.
Right. We do have them, currently data centers are permitted by right in the zoning ordinance. Energy generation facilities, we do have in the ordinance, but the type that they're proposing here is exempt. It doesn't count towards that definition. So that's going to be something that's new that we're going to be putting into conditional uses. But because of what's in the House bill, we'll take that to PC and, ask them if there's any other additional conditions that they want to tack on for that.
This is
review.
one House bill, right?
509 is the one I have noted with energy generation facilities.
And which one is 502 then?
That's data centers.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're protecting ourselves from being squeezed into a 30-day timeframe,
Yeah.
at least on the lawn, and adding a use that we currently don't have. And then that would mean they could go anywhere.
You mean they can go anywhere?
The one that we don't necessarily have as a named use could go anywhere in the township. Without this change, right?
No.
Oh, no,
I don't
no.
think that's the case, no, but it's just, it's the amount of review time that we might
On
have
both.
on both.
Okay, I misunderstood, sorry.
Yeah. Thanks, Adam.
All right, questions for Lindsay on any of those? No? All right, if not, we have a recommended action here, and that
Oh,
is that.
excuse me. I'm sorry. There's a fifth.
Oh, that's right.
And I wanted to note that before you moved on. This is one that just came to us about a week ago. Our mobile food vendor ordinance has 2 6-month periods that you can apply for a mobile food truck. And for ease of administration and enforcement, we feel that it would be much easier to just make that a 1-year time frame. So that would just be one simple change in the temporary uses, mobile food trucks, and the zoning ordinance. So that's just one additional one we wanted to add if council's okay with that, including that into the remand for PC.
All right, any objection to including that? No, then all we need then is a motion.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion needed? Matt?
Yeah, I'm reading a lot about that. Should we include something about the water? Because from what I understand, the electrical generation and data centers really use a lot of water.
Is that a question?
Yeah, I mean, should it be really considered?
I do believe we'll talk about environmental impacts when we get into the discussions of these, and I think
Okay.
that'll be an important topic that we need to discuss in the PC.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Matt.
All right. Then I have a motion, I have a second. Any public comment before we take the considered action? Not online? All right, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Ordinance amendments remanded to Planning Commission.
Great, thank you. We hope to get those on their agenda so they can start diving in on Tuesday.
See that, man. Tuesday. Done. Drive.
All right, that concludes OB1. That takes us to OB2, PAM Health. Looks like we're potentially looking at 2 separate actions here. Would that be correct?
Yes, correct.
OB2A is the DRI. Matt talked a little bit about that in his PC report. I'm waiting for this to come up. Lindsay, are you going to talk about this before we?
I am. I have a brief presentation that just goes right along with your memo, except I did add one thing into it that isn't currently in the memo. So just to give you an overview, this proposal is for a rehabilitation hospital at Innovation Park in College Township. The applicant is Catalyst Health. The landowner is Penn State. The agent who's been preparing and working with us on the plan and the project and the proposal is Stahl Schaefer Engineering. The parcel ID is 193100. Total acres of this one portion of 193100 is about 32.5 acres, in which 5.8 of those would be the leased area for the hospital. Zoning and land use, existing zoning is University Plan District 14. The proposed zoning is Planned Research Business Park District. The existing land use is vacant, and the future land use is institutional, as noted on the future land use map in the 2013 comprehensive plan. So part 1 is the DRI. Currently, the DRI has been submitted. The Center Regional Planning Agency has reviewed it, deemed it complete. We sent that to the Senator, or for the College Township Planning Commission for their review. They agreed at their last meeting that it did the DRI did have merit and should move forward to where we are tonight, which is council's review of the DRI. The next steps will be a Center Regional Planning Commission review, and then finally, College Township action. So one thing that wasn't included in your memo was the Planning Commission's recommendation, which also falls under the findings of fact that are related to when you move a DRI forward. So the Planning Commission's motion and their recommendations and things that have to happen before the DRI can be approved is that Penn State must provide a subdivision plan for the 5.8 acre parcel. The parcel must be rezoned to PRBD. Penn State and Catalyst Healthcare Real Estate must enter in a land lease to show the possession or occupancy of the property is based upon a contractual right. The development agreement between PAM Health, College Township, and Penn State must indicate that this will be a rehabilitation hospital, and then we're not doing a DRI for any other use that may come up. And then finally, provide proof of water service provided to the parcel by whether Penn State or College Township Water Authority. So those are the findings of fact that we'll be able to move forward. Council will be able to move forward tonight if you feel that it's time. If merit is determined, the DRI will be forwarded to the Center Regional Planning Commission for their review and their ultimate recommendation. This is a flow chart put together by the Center Regional Planning Agency. And if you see there on the right, we are at number 5. Which is presenting to, reviewed by council or the board to determine if the request does have merit. So that's the first part of the discussion. But before we hop into part 2, I want to talk about the subdivision of land. We haven't received a formal subdivision application yet for the plan. We anticipate that coming in the next few weeks, month or so. But they did provide just an overview of what they want to do, where that parcel lies, which is important because it has to be contiguous to the regional growth boundary, and this shows that it is. All right. Yes?
So we need to have the subdivision before we rezone?
No, they can all be done concurrently. It just depends on when.
It's a condition.
Yeah, it'll be a condition of the approval of the DRI and probably incorporated into the developer's agreement.
But they're requesting to subdivide in which zoning? That's the question.
Yeah, so the zoning will be, yes. What do you think, Mark?
I would say you'd almost have to have the subdivision done first, so you can do the zoning if you're only doing the 5.3 acres.
Right.
You'd have to have that parcel established before you just rezone. You can't rezone the parcel until it's established.
And that's a good point and a good segue too into the rezoning, because they are just requesting the 5.8 acres to be rezoned to the PRBD.
But they haven't subdivided it into 5.8 acres.
Correct, it's still the 30-some or whatever.
So that's why I signed it and asked it, because can we really take action on number 1 until it's subdivided?
Well, I think you can take action on whether or not the DRI has merit and what your findings of fact are.
Absolutely, yeah.
But what I'm hearing now is that there may be a technicality that prevents council from taking the action on the rezoning this evening. Pending the subdivision.
Right, unless that always just moves forward as a condition of both the rezoning and the DRI, the subdivision.
The subdivision is conditioned.
The action is to set a public hearing, so can we set the public hearing in lieu of the subdivision coming through by the time that happens?
Yeah, the goal was to really have them all 3 approved, on the same evening. Because the way that this is set up now, the DRI and the rezoning both go to CRPC on the same evening. And that the subdivision then would be approved when the rezoning and the DRI are in front of council for their final approval.
Did CRPC have any objections to the way that we had structured
Thinking back to the report, it wasn't, I don't believe it was specified. They note that there will have to be a rezoning and a subdivision. I'm not quite sure if they have that outlined anywhere, but that's something I can definitely double check and have that information.
Just a thought, would there be a problem with just doing a rezoning for that entire 30-acre parcel?
Right.
Because it's probably, you know, be it next year, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, that request will come in. Maybe to, rather than overcomplicate it, just rezone that tax parcel without the subdivision.
Yeah, the only thing I want to caution is that we don't want to mix our apples and oranges, because we could do that, absolutely, rezone the entirety of that 30-odd acre parcel to PRBD. That said, don't confuse that issue though with the growth boundary and the allocation of EDUs, because it doesn't apply to the balance of the property beyond the PAM or whatever the other corporate name is.
Yeah.
Entity.
And didn't the DRI just encompass the 5.8 acres?
Mm-hmm.
And at the very beginning, we moved this whole process forward with the understanding it would be just the 5.8 acres. I understand what you're saying. I'm just a little worried about the precedent and the opportunity that.
Yeah, I mean, I would be a little hesitant, because that was not the request that council originally entertained.
That's what I was saying.
The original request that council entertained was for a rezoning of the Pam Health site, which was, originally it started out at 5 acres, it's now 5.8. That still needs to be nailed down as one of the conditions the planning commission identified here. But that was the original request, and so I would be hesitant to advise council about rezoning the entirety of the parcel simply on that basis.
Right.
Okay, so to move forward tonight maybe as efficiently as possible, we can entertain comments, questions, concerns on the DRI. Anything come out of that surprised us? Are we still on track? We can put the ball back in the court of Penn State to get the rezoning in, because there's no reason, I mean, they're the ones that.
Their subdivision.
I'm sorry, their subdivision. I mean, why should, you know, it's their project, they want to move forward quickly apparently, then they need to get their subdivision in to us. It's one of the conditions anyways.
It is, and we did receive, you know, one of the conditions of that subdivision is going to have to be that they own the land, or they're leasing the land.
Beneficial interest.
Yeah, so they, you know, they can't really submit the subdivision until they have that information with us. So they're all sort of tied together, and that's why it's a little confusing.
All right,
So
so
the
we give
PC
them,
comments are spot on then.
Yeah.
we give them the information they need. We can still accept the DRI tonight if we don't have any heartburn over it, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
We can move it on to CRPA.
See.
For their comments, while we're waiting for them to send the subdivision in, and then it comes back to us and we take a separate action.
At that point, you'd be able to do those, both the subdivision and the rezoning simultaneously.
And by then, the DRI review will be back from CRPA.
Okay.
All right, then.
That sounds like a good plan, and. Yeah.
Any heartburn questions on the DRI? We can cross that off tonight if everybody's fine with it. Was anything come out of that was a surprise?
The only question I had is I thought we were calling this DRI light.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm just getting the terms down.
Well, we may have a third term.
Yeah.
Super light,
Park light.
Yeah.
Park light.
All right, I'm not hearing any concerns, nothing come out of the DRI. Staff, you didn't see anything come out of the DRI?
No.
I thought that the findings of fact that were identified by the planning commission were very apropos.
Right.
So we can tonight move the DRI to Center Region Planning Agency, correct?
Yeah, Center Region Planning Commission it'll go to next, yeah. So that is a
Questions
good
then on the
motion.
DRI or the process I'm outlining here? Any concern about moving that on ahead of the,
No, I don't think so.
Rich?
No, just, I assume this needs to be a formal
Yes.
vote and just formulating the potential motion.
You could just say so moved.
Yes, I
And
could.
let staff figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, they knew they knew what was in my head. I don't know what's in my head. How are they gonna know what's in my head?
All right,
I mean, if we just move it to the CRPC, right, then that's really all you need, that's all we need to take a motion on. because
Well,
we're
Has
saying-
merit,
Yes,
has merit,
Thank you.
and,
Right. Subject to the following findings of fact.
All right,
And
sounds like,
unless there's more that council comes up with on their own.
that's a
But
harder
I would
motion.
actually identify as part of the motion, the findings of fact that PC came up with.
all right, that's the motion you just made?
yes.
Okay, and that's the motion you just seconded?
Sure, yeah.
Wow, that's very Lynn Herman-esque.
Flashbacks there, huh?
Of those five, right?
Those five, yes.
I just want you to know, this was sitting at my table tonight when I came in, so.
Worked well.
All right.
Yeah.
One question, is sewer included on your five?
Well,
Sewer isn't included. I think when we got to the end of that discussion, we just said, you know, it's part of the DRI process to include, to actually get the sewer. But no, Matt, sewer is not mentioned in this.
All right, I have a motion, I have a second. Anybody online wish to address council before we consider this action? Anyone in the room? No? All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? DRI moved on to Center Region Planning Agency, potential rezoning deferred until we get a subdivision.
Great, thank you, everyone.
That concludes old business. That takes us to new business. Tonight we have one item under new business, MB1, COG committee structure. Discussion and probably action would make, I guess, all of us more comfortable if we reach consensus in the form of an action. Would that be correct, Rich?
Yes.
Okay. This is an item that we've been informally talking about through various committee reports and sidebars and stuff. And Rich has finally Rich has outlined it, I guess. Is that the best way to describe it? Outlined the discussions into a formal plan that he's looking for feedback and hopefully consensus from the four of us tonight to move it forward to probably what, exec committee?
Yes.
Okay. And then hopefully on to general forum. So, anything you want to add to the memo that you brought, that you included in the package?
Just I heard two folks reached out and discussed a couple things. I'll just share what those were. One was whether one committee for parks and library is enough, because they're pretty large, and everything. My response to that was, well, it's one more than we have now, number one, and I think this has more of an opportunity of support than if we came back with two. I think once that committee got to work, they might say, hey, we really need to be two. The other thing on that is we already do have a little bit of a comparable standard in that the public safety has code, fire, and emergency management, which is about the size of those two together when you figure the fire capital and everything.
That's a lot.
And then the other thing for these ones is that you have a library board and a Parks and Rec authority that also is contributing to the lift on that. So that's why I felt comfortable with one. The second one, there's a sensitivity to the word oversight in various things. Interestingly, we had that at our last Parks governance meeting. I threw my hand up and I said, hi, I'm a former military guy. I had to oversight a lot of things, but I didn't have any power, kind of thing. So, but there is sensitivity to that. And I think potentially the addition of simply the word financial oversight just really narrows it down to what we're talking about here. Whether that be for the authority, the library board, or anything else. We're talking about the dollars. And we have a fiduciary, the rest of it falls right into that. It's in our fiduciary duties for the taxpayer dollar to have that oversight in there. So that would, a small tweak, adding financial to preceding most of the oversights, just so that we don't get bent around that word and everything. And then finally, the only other thing is, should this council support this, it would swap out my name for College Township Council.
So, assuming there's general support for this approach, everybody understands the addition of the financial in front of oversight? I mean, it really clears up a lot of the confusion where we have authorities in place for parks and library who are actually the policy oversight body. But we're the finance department on those two authorities. So I think that's an excellent tweak.
Yeah, but that wouldn't apply to everything, like the executive committee, right, as over COG administration. The executive committee has oversight, period.
They do. They may have more than financial oversight, but this is just sticking to that arena and not getting into the other elements of it.
So was your suggestion that financial be at the top of the column, or that it be applied to?
There's several places that oversight, and just, hone this down to that we're talking about financial oversight.
Well, if I may, just a tweak to that, it may come to it, because I think that there may be some pushback relative to the library board.
Right.
Municipal financial oversight.
Yes, because of the foundation?
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah, no, there's a couple places that it references, it's specific, the municipal's already there, the financial's not. And just making sure that everybody's clear, this is what we're talking about. But that could be fleshed out as we get it going forward. But I think adding it proactively now will maybe circumvent some folks that, no, I have the oversight.
I mean, right, it's a memorandum to start a discussion, and quite frankly, you're going to define out the specific oversight when all the documentation is codified afterwards, right? Like, you're not codifying it here. Like, in particular, it'll say, when we update our policies, et cetera, that, this is the bylaws and charters, this is the oversight that committee has.
Yeah, a lot of it's already memorialized in agreements,
No, that's a
articles
good
of agreement.
point. We don't have to get that far into the weeds tonight.
Yeah.
Or to get it on the general forums radar.
I have a little bit of concern with just eliminating the HR committee, not just because I'm on it, but it has the position of the anti-harassment liaison, which I also am that. And there was a situation that we had to deal with this year. And I've been a liaison for the past 2 years. And so I'm okay with removing it if that position can stay there, because that's for the employees to have a place to talk about if they have a problem with their boss.
So to be clear here, this didn't necessarily address that. I just want to make sure we're not assuming that position would go away as part of this.
Yeah, I made no assumption.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just expressing my concern.
Well, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Because no other committee has that.
Right.
that special
It's
level.
filled through that committee, yeah.
Right, and it could be filled through, it could be any member of the general, just my quick fix is it could be assigned as part of the reorg every year to a member of the general forum or a member of the executive committee.
Two.
Okay, so two.
A male and female, that's what they want.
Oh, great.
Mhm.
A note for tonight is that, that doesn't,
That can't just go away.
Please.
Yeah.
Because there was.
Right. No, that's
very serious situation.
Yep.
No, it's a good point.
Yep, very good.
That's why we're having this discussion. And as long as we're tweaking the COG committee primary municipal financial oversight, we may want to add primary center region municipal oversight to the TLU as it applies to the MPO. As it's MPO being a countywide entity. All right. So it doesn't appear there are any other concerns about this philosophically moving forward. Rich has put something together, as he noted here.
I just had one thing to add. I just wanted to compliment Rich on putting this together.
Yes.
It's a long time coming.
Thank you.
So absolutely thank you. I think it's very good. I'm 100% in support of it.
Yeah.
As if the heavy lifting he's been doing in the.
Right, wasn't
I know, right?
isn't
Wasn't good enough.
He's been carrying our water in Parks and Rec and Parks Capital now for years, particularly the last year. So what we have here is something that theoretically would eliminate redundant oversight.
Yep.
Certainly simplify responsibilities, clarify, memorialize, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
And the idea is if there's consensus here tonight, maybe we can do that through a motion. Some form of this would move on to the executive committee.
Yeah, and actually a suggested path would be similar as I sent it out to all of you to digest prior to the meeting, so we're not just sitting down here and we're dumping it on you and everything. I would suggest that if we approve it, that we push it out to the applicable folks in advance of the executive committee meeting.
The other municipalities.
And as well as the COG staff that is going to be potentially influenced by this and everything to include, because I don't believe the executive director has spoke to them yet because we haven't consensus for them to put. He's reviewed it, but I doubt that he's reviewed it with his staff. So the suggestion could be to push to the executive director and say, hey, maybe don't let your folks be surprised by this.
Right.
So decide on a distribution.
Yeah.
Is what you're asking.
Yeah,
And sooner
my
rather than
question
later.
is a little more technical than that. Should this be on College Township letterhead? What form should this take, and is that something that staff is doing in terms of distribution?
My first thought on letterhead would be COGS if we're going first to the executive director.
But this
is a College Township initiative.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
I think it gives it more.
Well,
I couldn't do it because I'm presenting it, so I couldn't be on College Township letterhead. But if College Township Council approves it, then yes, I think it absolutely could be.
Yeah, and I would recommend that. If it's an initiative to engage in conversation with the hope of making these changes, and it's an official position that's adopted by folks here tonight, then yeah, I would recommend that it goes out on letterhead. So I'll need to work on a bit of a preamble, but then essentially incorporate the final version of this as part of all of that.
Yeah, maybe you're doing a cover letter and then this is on top.
Good point. Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to be sure I understood the process.
So that answers both questions.
I think so.
All right, then All that's left maybe, do you think we still need action, or have we reached consensus enough for moving this forward? Maybe
I would
action comes
recommend-
when we see the letter? I don't know.
Well, I mean, well, we could do it that way, but the letter is just really a transmittal. You're seeing, aside from the tweaks that we discussed here this evening, you're seeing the final version here. So my recommendation to you, if this is going to be an initiative or a thrust that's being made by College Township Council, I would move this and get a second and put it on the record.
And normally I would say we would bring it back for a final, once, we'd initiate it and everything like that. But we're running out of year. And the ideal was to get, as I said in the email that covered this, is that we get this before we get to the January reorg. If there's overwhelming support for this, we implement it then. If there isn't, it gets implemented when it gets implemented. If it gets implemented.
Right, if it can gain steam, give it, yeah. Give it a chance.
I mean, I go to
Give
all
it a
these
chance.
meetings and I hear we have too many meetings. So, and COG staff sure isn't going to complain about 2 less agendas. The COG agenda machine is probably not going to complain too terribly. I think there will be some potential concern in the parks and library that they might have oversight that they don't already have, but they do. Actually, I think it's to their benefit because you build advocates for their programs, subject matter experts on it, versus finance having to wing it, kind of thing. But.
All right, I heard a motion, I just didn't hear who it came from.
I'll move.
Okay. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Having heard the motion, do we have any public comment before we consider action? No? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. That concludes new business. That takes us to staff informatives. We have September 2025 OEO report in our packet. Anything staff wants to inform us on beyond that? Questions on the staff informatives? Council, other matters? Anything from staff that would fall under other matters? Anything from council that would fall under other matters? Well, golly, that takes us to adjournment then. I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We are adjourned.
Didn't have to ask for that
I
one.
know, right?
Or